I'll end this right now.
Joker, it's her! She's the weird reading I've been getting!
My weak self relied on you so much. That ends today. Let's do this, Senpai!
Well, would you look at that, Atlas bringing even more stuff to the PC. I ain't exactly complaining, especially since I never beat the original version of this game, let alone the expanded one. This one did take a while though, as I wanted to get myself deep enough into the game where I could feel confident talking about it. And that means pushing through pretty long, considering how much story and gameplay drags on here. Especially in the form of the extensive prologue that this franchise is rather infamous for, which is also most of what you'll see in my footage. Regardless, I believe it's time we actually start getting into the details of what I'm talking about. So let's get to it. This is Persona 5 Royal. The first thing anyone is going to think when they see this game can be summarized in a single word: style. If there's one thing you can say about the Persona games, at least from 3 onward, it's that they absolutely ooze style. Persona 5 specifically takes on a cel-shaded and strikingly colorful look, with the UI designed like graffiti and focusing very hard on color schemes that really pop out at you, such as the, dare I say, iconic black, red, and white that makes up most of the game's colors. The music is the same way, adopting a loud and exciting sort of jazz that makes even just going through ordinary life as a student feel like it's something more, which in this context is actually true. And speaking of student life, let's move on over to the story.
Please help!
Damn brat! I'll sue!
What? Are you for real? A mental shutdown? It's the truth! To a person, though? That's gotta be a joke. You really love all that occult stuff, don't you?
Persona 5's story feels like a deliberate shift away from what had come before in the 4th game, where in 4 you played as a city kid in a middle of nowhere country town. You here play as a kid from the countryside being brought into Tokyo after an incident where trying to keep a woman safe leaves you falsely convicted of an assault charge, forcing you into a year-long probation to prove you can live a normal life again. Not long after surviving, you find a mysterious app on your phone that sends you into another dimension with your first party member, Ryuji. You both narrowly manage to escape this mystery castle run by a shadow version of the school's gym coach while also unleashing your persona for the first time. It is here where I will add that personas look absolutely amazing. Soon after, you come into contact with Igor in his velvet room, something that I've talked about before in an old lore video of mine. Go check it out. With the stage set, you gradually gather more friends and party members to use your personas and bring down these corrupt palaces brought on by people's twisted minds, all while trying to maintain a secret identity as a normal high school student. It's got a sort of Spider-Man thing going on here, except with the whole other worlds thing. Now, I won't go deeper into the story here. If you want more info, then go look at my Velvet Room video, but if I say anything more, I might spoil the story. What I will say is, I personally like the story. I know that some people get annoyed by how long and sometimes convoluted these Persona stories can get with the other worlds and mysteries and foreshadowing, etc, 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 but I personally like it. The writing manages to do enough foreshadowing to keep you interested while also holding back enough information that you don't just see the plot twist from a mile away. Sure, you can figure it out, and you'll probably figure out the plot twists that are closer to you in the story, but the bigger plot twists aren't necessarily anything obvious. And that story is only further deepened by the extra characters and content provided by the Royal version of the game. But still, this is a JRPG, so while a story is very important, that means we do gotta talk about turn-based combat.
You made me wait quite a while. You seek power, correct? Then let us form a pact. Since your name has been disgraced already, why not hoist the flag and wreak havoc? The other you who exists within desires it thus. I am thou, thou art I. There is no turning back. The skull of rebellion is your flag henceforth!
What can you do? Cower in fear and watch!
Right on. What's up, Persona? This effing rocks!
Right out of the gate, the gameplay of Persona 5, much like most of the Persona games, is very, very good. Of course, I'm biased here in that I am amenable to the JRPG gameplay formula. I like turn-based combat, I like the variety of elements, buffs, debuffs, so on. But there are elements to the gameplay that make it so that even people who hate JRPGs admit that it's enjoyable. Part of that is simply the sheer style with which the gameplay is presented. It's fast-paced, exciting, and just cool to look at. But on top of that, you have the Persona system. Rather than simply having spells or abilities attached to your character like a typical JRPG, these are determined by your currently equipped persona. Each persona has different stats that determine the effectiveness of certain spells and skills like strength, magic, endurance, or even traits that can help you specialize. This is expanded on by the fact that you don't just have one persona at any given time, you collect personas like Pokemon and fuse them together to create stronger personas and to mix and match abilities to suit various situations. This gives you a wide variety of methods to take down enemies, including exploiting weaknesses to give you even more turns, or to just straight up end the battle with an all-out attack. All in all, it's a very well-made and in-depth system that isn't just the exact same thing as every other JRPG. That is to say, it's not trying to ape Dragon Quest. Beyond that, the Royal version of the game also provides more areas to explore in each dungeon in the form of collecting will seeds for even better accessory abilities. Then, of course, there's the other half of the game, the social sim. When you're not running around a dungeon, you're basically playing a visual novel. You manage your relationships with the various people you meet in order to max out the confidant ranks, deepening their relationship with you, while also granting you gameplay bonuses at the same time. Thankfully, there's an auto-progress button, so you don't need to constantly click through every single line. You can just sit back and watch as the prologue continues for about 4 hours into the game, which is really the game's biggest problem, I feel. Everything about the core of the game feels and looks great, but it takes absolutely forever to get to that core. For hours upon hours, the game is railroading you through the story and giving you tutorial after tutorial. After a while, it becomes hard to tell when you're finally out of the tutorial zone in the beginning, since the game just loves to open things up to you slowly, which has a bad habit of breaking immersion sometimes with more tutorial pop-ups as you play.
It's not like she didn't treat me like a plaything. What's wrong with me doing the same?
You can't treat someone like shit just because they did it to you. What a load of crap. We're gonna change the hearts of all the bastards like you.
There are millions of people far worse than me. What about Madarame? He stole everything from me, but you're letting him off the hook?
Madarame? What the hell's this guy going on about?
Get ready. Here he comes.
And that is Persona 5 Royal, at least the parts I wanted to talk about without totally spoiling the thing. Like I said, the biggest problem this game, and frankly all the Persona games have, is that issue of pacing the gameplay and the story. The tutorials start to drag on after a while, and if you're not invested in the story at all, it's gonna really feel boring after a while. But if this story seems up your alley even a little bit, the gameplay is only gonna make it better and really get you hooked. All in all, I still recommend it. This has been TheRatMan, and I will see you all later.